Hello, Father Seán, and hello, John. How are you both?
Well, thank you, and you.
Very good, very good. So, on our last video, we looked at George Simmel's idea that modern life can leave people emotionally numb under constant pressure and commercialization. In this follow-up, we want to look at how that plays out in Ireland today, especially with the loss of Sunday as a day of rest, and what the Christian response might be. In one of the comments of the last video that we did, Irish Mammy commented, and this is for Father Seán. Her concern is that crosses are being removed from schools and hospitals so as not to offend others. My own view on this is, of course, that I think Christianity should not be a private hobby. It shaped our schools, hospitals, laws, language, calendar, and our understanding of human dignity. What are your views, Father Seán, on this?
Well, first of all, you have to understand the reason that Jesus Christ came on earth, and he came on earth precisely to restore human beings with God, to restore humanity in a positive relationship with divinity, and that's the first thing that we need to realize. That restoration is very important. Human beings on their own are like a ship without a rudder. They're subject to the swirling winds of outrageous fortune. They have no direction, no purpose, and so on, because only the Creator can give the creatures true purpose. So Jesus came actually to give us as human beings our true purpose. And our true purpose is, as I learned in the Catechism many, many, many years ago, is to know and love God here on earth, and serve him here on earth, and afterwards to be happy with him forever in heaven. So the whole purpose of religion is actually to connect us with God. And the whole purpose of symbols of religion is to make visible the importance of that connection and the fact that God initiated his connection with us and called us to be connected with him. So to me, removing crosses, statues, icons, and so on from public buildings is actually, again, an attempt to separate the creature from the creator. It's actually an act of atheism. It's an act that's an insult to God. I mean, my question basically is, why are we so afraid of offending others who are offended by signs of God? You know, I say if somebody tells me that they're offended by crosses and by statues and so on and so forth, I just tell them, look, suck it up. Suck it up. Too bad that you're offended. And if you are offended, you ought to be offended. And you ought to realize that you're the one who's offending God, not God offending you. And I think actually it's also a sign, too, of how willing the leadership and the membership of the church are to submit to these people. I call them cranks. Submit to these people and actually kowtow to them. The purpose of the church is not to kowtow to the world. The purpose of the church is to call the world back to God. And I think removing statues and crosses from hospitals and schools and whatnot is an act of atheism. And it's a disgrace when it's okayed by church leaders. Total disgrace.
I think, Father, that after working in Temple Street, I used to work there. There was a statue of Our Lady, and there was one particular nurse, an Irish girl. She used to go up to that statue on a regular basis, and she used to stand there in a busy hall. The statue was about 15 feet in the air, and she used to stand there with her hands joined, and she used to be praying. And I thought, wow, this has given her strength because it was a children's hospital, and it's given her strength to carry on with her day, and she's practicing her faith openly. And I thought it was lovely. And I thought to myself, that's the importance of having the statues in the hospital of Our Lady, Jesus, and I think they're important for people.
They are, because they do two things. First of all, they remind us of God's love. Nobody can look at the crucifix and say that God doesn't love human beings. As St. Paul says, God loved us even while we were still sinning. He sent us a Savior even while we were still sinning. He still sends us a Savior while we're still sinning. And secondly, It's a reminder to us that we're not dependent on our own devices, that there's a power beyond our own. And that power is a friendly power, a power that really wants to help us to be the kind of people that God created us to be, namely his image and likeness. People who bring freedom, who bring justice, who bring peace, and who bring love to the world. So removing these actually is being an instrument of Satan.
Okay. So I just want to, in line with our last video, thank you for that. And I'm sure Irish Mammy will love that response. It's a very good one. I want to go back anyway to modern numbness in society. If the church could recover one practice to heal modern numbness and fragmentation, what should it be? Father Seán.
I think the first thing that it's not the church. The church is fine. It's the leaders. You know, my mother, God rest her soul, used to say one time, "There's nothing wrong with the world. It's the people in it. It's the people in the church who are actually muting her voice." The task of the church is the task of Jesus. Jesus came to reconcile all human beings with God. The first commandment, I am the Lord your God, you shall not put strange gods before me. So the first thing that the church needs to do is to call the world to God, verbally. And the church does that, the leaders do that by preaching the gospel, as St. Paul says, in season, out of season, convenient or inconvenient. Because the task of the church is to convert the world. The task of the church is to, and she does that by evangelizing and by catechizing. She does not do it by trying to be a friend of the world. And the reason people are empty, the reason people are the way they are, is because basically their souls are starved. Their souls have starved. And when their souls are starved, and they can only be nourished by God, because the soul is spiritual, and only the spiritual can nurture the spiritual, which is why Jesus himself has made us food for our souls in the Holy Mass and the Holy Eucharist. But when people's souls are starved, then their thinking is distorted, and their will is weakened. So when your thinking is distorted, then your choices would be bad. And also, when your soul is starved, then you're going to focus completely on the body. And let's face it, from the moment we're conceived, the body is headed toward the grave. That's the reality. And so that actually lends itself to a sense of hopelessness, a sense of worthlessness, a sense of being kind of pointless. Why do we even exist at all? So the first thing the church needs to do is to implement the first commandment, that God is God and he does not want strange gods before me. Because following strange gods means ultimately that you will be given false promises, which will leave you even more disappointed, more cheated, and more empty. And that's it. And it's very simple, very simple. I mean, that's what Jesus did. First thing he did was he said, reform your life. Reform how? In other words, turn to God. Turn your life over to God, instead of trying to save yourself, which you can't do. And then he said, repent of your sinfulness, because you're prone to sinfulness. You're prone to selfishness. Repent. And then he said, believe in the gospel, because the gospel is a gospel of truth, and only the truth frees us. And so today, and I've seen people actually who've had conversions in their lives that went from a life of decadence, a life of emptiness, to a life of fullness, a life of joy, all because somebody introduced them to Jesus Christ. And that's the job of the church. Introduce people to Jesus Christ. That's the task of the church. That's the task of the bishops and the priests and the deacons of the clergy.
Okay.
People are crying out for God. They're crying out for God. And if you don't find the true God, then you latch on to false gods. And false gods always lead to feeling cheated and disappointed and empty.
Okay. My next question is for John. John, would you welcome a slower, less commercial Sunday if it were possible? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, it should be possible, but when these crosses and statues was taken out from churches, by the government, by the people in the government who have seem to have an anti-Catholic bias. It was nobody. They used the pretext to other folk, but folk come to this country, and we have our Catholic faith, and they had no right to do such a thing. In these hospitals, because the crosses that were in the hospital is the high price that Jesus paid for our redemption, and the statues remind people. We don't adore the statues; they remind us of the Blessed Mother, and the various other statues reminds us of the saints that are up in heaven. So it's the government has done that without a buyer leave. They have an anti-Catholic bias, and this is the way it manifests itself. Now, the people in charge, which is the bishops or the Archbishop, the Premier of all Ireland, they need to sort of wake up and speak out against these things and demand that they be put back, because they were put there for a purpose when hospitals were run by the religious sisters and doing a great job. Now it's gone secular and it's gone anti-Catholic. That's the simple end of it. Nobody is. I have never heard anybody. I never met anybody that would do such a thing, to take crosses that was in hospitals for years and giving solace to people, especially babies that are in hospitals, the Lake of Crumlin or Temple Street or wherever these hospitals are. It gives a bit of comfort to the parents visiting sick children. That's one example. But they probably took them out of other hospitals. I think they took them out of the Mater Hospital, which was the Mater Misericordiae, and it was by nuns that it was operated on, the same as the one out in Ball's Bridge. So you can't make all these change. They've no right to do it, and they should be put back. And the Christian TV Ireland, when we get one, we'll be demanding that. Full stop.
Okay. Father Seán, how can the church rebuild a working relationship with the state without losing its moral voice? This is part of our.
Well, the first thing that has to be that the leadership has to realize is that as Saint Augustine pointed out when he talked about the city of God and the city of man, that the city of man actually must be directed by the city of God. In other words, the leadership of the church must realize that it's not their job to have a friendly relationship with the world. The world doesn't want a friendly relationship with the church. All the world wants to do is use the church for its own ends. You can't have a friendly relationship with what tries to eliminate you. So the leadership has to forget about having a friendly relationship with the world. What the leadership has to do is to recognize that they are called by God to call the world back to him, to call the world to embrace Jesus Christ as its only hope for salvation, as its only deliverer, as the only one who can free it from its falseness, that can raise it up from its fallen state. And so it's the problem. That's the problem I find with this whole synodal way thing. That started by Pope Francis and still seems to be continuing. It's a total waste of time, total waste of energy. We're accompanying people. Accompany them where? Jesus didn't say, "Oh, I want you to accompany me." He said, "I want you to follow me. I want you to take up your cross daily and follow in my footsteps. I want you to obey the commandments." That's what the leadership of the church, because that's what the church wants to say to the world. And if the leaders are faithful to the church, that's what they will be saying to the world as well, rather than wasting their time trying to make themselves acceptable to the world. When I try to make myself acceptable to the world, then actually I'm walking away from God, because I'm walking away to secularism. I'm embracing secularism. I'm actually embracing Marxism. I'm embracing wokery. I'm embracing all those things that reflect the human ego, which began in the Garden of Eden, when Satan tempted Adam and Eve to think that they were equal to God. And that's the whole thrust of the world. So I would say to anybody, don't be wasting your time trying to be friends with the world. You can't. See, what has happened actually since Vatican II, the church has bent over backwards to the world. Has the world budged? No. Instead, the world actually has taken away so many members of the church. Why? Because the church makes the world makes all these promises. You know, I'll make you happy. I'll give you this. I'll give you that. I'll give you whatever. And it presents people with four false gods to counteract the true God. So the world says, be popular and you'll be happy. Be wealthy and you'll be happy. Be powerful and you'll be happy. Please yourself and you'll be happy. Those are the gods of the world. The God of the Bible, the God revealed by Jesus Christ, said, you'll be happy when you sacrifice yourself, when you love me, when you love others. When you put others first, you'll sacrifice yourself. Totally contrary. So the two messages, the message of the world and the message of the church, are contradictory. And therefore, then, the message of the church, of course, is far more powerful because it's the message of God. But the leadership don't seem to realize that. And so I would say, in answer to that question, then, you can build a working relationship with the state. What you have to do as church is to call the state to realize it's accountable to God, to call all politicians to realize that they will have to give an account to God of how they have managed the human and natural resources.
Okay. John, would you like the church to have more of a say in public life than it presently has?
Well, I'd like them to speak out when it's necessary. They like to look at these crosses and statues being taken out of hospitals where they're most needed to sort of help people when they're suffering. That's number one. The bishops don't seem to speak out against anything, or if they do, it's not getting publicity. I can't imagine that they're so silent that we don't hear anything about them. So that means then people are not getting the help that they need. And there's so many things gone astray in the church from the point of view of the lack of confession. That it's not available in churches, and that you have only one mass now on a Sunday when there used to be 3 or 4 masses, and there was never a mass on a Saturday. So all the changes is not helpful. The church is as weak. It's nearly clueless. And so our Christian TV, and with Father Seán being the spiritual director, we won't be sitting on the fence. We'll be calling a spade and speaking out against this dereliction of duty of those in charge. They should be speaking out far more and attacking this government for what they've done. Previous governments were not like that, but this government and the last 10 years have been doing things that is not conducive to the people that want to sort of have a spiritual life and practice their Catholic faith. And when they go to hospital, they want to see a cross behind them. I know if I was in hospital, thank God, I don't be in them at all. But if I was, I'd have to have a cross behind me. I'd bring one myself. And if anybody touched it, if I had a stick, I'd give them a clap. So that is the way to do it.
Sorry,
Don't make excuses and when it's this, that, or the other. You can't deal with this crowd. They've got away with murder practically the way that they've done, and then the church has been empty and all the rest of it. Confession's not available, and no altar rails in most churches, and they're putting their paw out. It's just pathetic compared to what it was.
Okay. Father Seán, you kind of caught me by surprise in the last video. You made a very, very important point. You mentioned that the GAA, or you alluded to that the GAA took over the social space once held by the parish. How did that happen? Or can you give us an insight?
Well, first of all, I think that, when it started, the church's voice was clearly heard, many years ago. And actually, the GAA took over the church's structure to foster its sports, hurling and football, camogie, and so on, by making it parish-based. But I think what happened over the years was that the leadership again, and I see, I don't blame it's not the church. Church is fine. It's the people who are leaders in it, ordained leaders especially. I think over the years, what happened was that and especially maybe since the 60s, Ireland became kind of multi-ethnic, or not multi, but maybe multicultural or whatever. And so the local communities were no longer as strong. And so the GAA then provided a sense of community, especially for young people, especially for children and for teenagers. And sadly, the leadership of the church then did nothing to reach out to the young people itself, because it felt like, oh, the GAA is providing this, for the young people, so we don't really have to do anything. And of course, as the communities became kind of more dispersed and no longer as cohesive as they used to be, then there was a great need for an organization to involve the young people. And since the leadership, since the parishes, the church parishes weren't doing anything, then the GAA took over that particular task, which is social task, which is very important. And I think now, and then slowly but surely, the GAA took over the days when those children were available. Those are the Saturdays and the Sundays. And so what we have today now is the almost complete takeover by the GAA of the Saturdays and the Sundays, to the detriment of the church. Because like when I was growing up, for example, there were no games, no sports till the afternoon on a Sunday. There was really nothing practically on a Saturday. But now, of course, the Sundays are practically taken over completely. I mean, I see them practicing, for example, at 9 o'clock in the morning. There's a church not too far away from where I am, where there's a sports complex that opens at 9 o'clock and is going all Sunday practically, even during Mass time. And there are far more people in that sports complex than there are in the actual church for Holy Mass. And so again, it's due to the fact that the leadership are not faithful to their task, which is to evangelize and catechize, and say to the coaches, look, folks, Sunday is a holy day. Sunday is God's day, and don't try to interfere with parents in carrying out their obligation to bring their children to Holy Mass. Because if you do, you're answerable to God. But there seems to be no effort in that direction whatsoever. And so now, of course, parents are caught between enabling their children to be on the local team, whatever that might be, or go to Mass. Because if they don't practice during Mass times, then they'll be dropped from the team. And so, and I know that strong parents actually know their priorities, but that's only a minority of parents who are strong in their faith. The majority are very weak in their faith. And so they're going to do what will make their children happy. And that is bring them to the sports preparation and whatnot. And I think the GAA today actually has made a contribution to undermining the church. Maybe not consciously, but certainly unconsciously. But however, I wouldn't blame the GAA. I blame the bishops and I blame the parish priests. They are supposed to be the fathers, and a father is supposed to set the tone for his children, but they are not setting the tone for their children. And I think that's why the GAA, you know the old saying, nature can't stand a vacuum. So the GAA have filled a vacuum that actually was caused by the lack of the church outreach to young people. Show me a parish today where there's a vibrant youth organization based on the faith. There are very few, if there are any, in this country at all. I saw it myself when I worked in Louisiana, for example, We had a similar problem with sports, but the bishops met with the coaches and set up, look, we have to have an agreement here. We have to have an understanding because there's a clash. I know the sports people are out for the good of their members. So, but the church is out for the good of its members, and the good of the church's members is far more important than sports can provide. And they agreed, and the issue was solved. But there seems to be, you know, the old saying, where there's a will, there's a way. There seems to be no will on the part of the leadership to engage the young people, and so they leave it to the GAA, and as a result, the GAA has taken over.
I just want to go over to John. John, you look as if you want to say something there. Do you want to?
Well, you see, their souls are in grave danger of eternal damnation. When you are baptized as a Catholic and make your first Holy Communion confirmation, there's obligations attached to it, and aside from the obligations, it's the right thing to do. It gives you that inward joy and peace and harmony that you won't get from no matter how many balls you kick here, there, yonder, or whatever it is. And sometimes sports get injuries.
Yes.
I was at sport, you know, in the afternoons, and twice I got collarbones. So I just said, cheerio, I'm not going to be getting myself injured, thank you very much. And I took up tennis, and we're very good at it.
Very good.
Final. Do you get me drift? So, like, and that type of thing. So, you don't. The idea that this old chronology of sport is taken over. It's just regrettable that the leaders are took a bow of silence. They might as well just disappear off to a monastery somewhere, because you've got to speak out. And the fact that crosses was taken out of churches. I have crosses here in every room. I wouldn't be without them, because to bring gifts, and every house should be blessed. My house has been blessed here, and so therefore there's an air of goodness and all the rest of it. And anybody that comes in, you can feel it. And when you go to houses that there's that sort of attitude, you know, this holy attitude, you can feel it. But if you go to a house that hasn't got it, out of it you want to get, because there's not a good atmosphere. So these are the sort of simple things. The faith, practicing your Catholic faith is a great gift. And you turn your back on that, well, then you turn your back on God. There's obligations when you're a Catholic. And unfortunately, there seems to be about 75% not practiced, and their soul in grave danger. And it should be preached. And the sacrament of confession should be available. It's not available. So these are all the problems. If you're not preaching the good news, well, then what are they there for? What are they doing?
Father Seán, from a theological point of view, what would an ideal Sunday look like in Ireland today for you, for the parish?
Well, the Sunday is the Lord's Day. So if it's the Lord's Day, then the Lord should get first preference. And as Catholics, we give the Lord that first preference through prayer in the home and through Holy Mass.
And the Holy Rosary in the home.
Every night. Yeah, prayer in the home. Yeah, when I mean the Rosary in the home and Holy Mass. Yeah. And also family life. Because when we look at family life today, we see it again, it's becoming more and more broken. And it's becoming more and more broken because the family is not together. I mean, I saw it myself in America, you know, sadly, where families didn't even eat together because they had went out to fast food places, or they ate in different rooms or whatever it was. And the family suffered. You know, the old saying, the family that prays together stays together. But the family that eats together also, they listen to each other, and they talk to each other, and they hear each other, and they give time to each other as well. So to me, the ideal Sunday is it begins with prayer in the morning offering for sure, and then Holy Mass as a family, and then spend time together as a family after Mass, at a meal, and so on. Then if they want to attend sports or something in the afternoon, fine, that's fine. But the greater part of the day is devoted to the Lord and devoted to what he wants them to be devoted to, namely the love of one another within the family context.
John, can you describe your ideal Sunday, or what's your Sunday like at the moment? Is it obviously to your
Oh,
satisfaction,
it's
I'd
lovely,
say?
thank God, because I have choices. I'm on my own, which is a gift. Funny enough, it's not. You don't be alone in a fit, because with videos and prayers, my day seems to go pretty good. And now the business of the what we were talking about, just this lack of clarity, this lack of speaking the truth in a good, strong way. We don't come across it anywhere. You go to mass and you're as weak as you like. You don't hear nothing that will lift you up. And the fact that there's a lack of missions in churches that there used to be every year, and when everybody was practicing the Catholic faith, and it kept you on your toes, and you wondered were you doing things right. It put manners on you. So we've no missions. What is wrong? What is wrong with the powers that be that has allowed this situation to obtain, and that they're not instructing priests to have confession after every mass and for at least an hour every Sunday and preach the importance of it, morning, noon, and night. I don't hear a word about it, quite frankly, and it's disgraceful.
True.
Father, I just want to ask you, you mentioned in our last video, you said that Ireland is like a pagan society now. Could you just elaborate a little bit on that and what you mean by
Yeah,
that?
the four false gods in Ireland today, and pagans are those who follow false gods. The four false gods in Ireland today are popularity.
Okay.
I want to be popular. Another false god is I want to be rich. I want to be wealthy. Another false god is I want to be powerful. I want control. Another false god is, well, I want to do my own thing. I want to please myself. These are the four false gods. The true God is either ignored or rejected. The God that says it's not what other people think about you, it's what I think about you that matters. The God who says to be powerful, you must serve everybody else. The God who says to please yourself, you must please me and you must please others. The God who basically calls us to love. That's the God who's ignored. And a pagan society always undermines itself. That's what happened to Rome. Rome didn't fall from its enemies outside. Rome fell from the enemies within, and the enemies within were the pagan gods. And pagan gods are always manipulative. Pagan gods always make promises, as I said earlier, that they can't keep. And pagan gods God always calls his followers to be like him. Pagan gods call his followers to be like them. So the God of popularity calls people to be applause addicts. Applause addicts. That's why, for example, when you see things like Facebook and some of these other social media, all these people are desperate to like me, like me, like me. I think that's so pathetic.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
pathetic, and then, of course, if you don't like me, well, then I don't like myself as well. So there's no sense of self-possession, because the pagan gods possess us. The pagan gods do not help us to possess ourselves. The true God doesn't possess us. He actually gives us the strength to possess ourselves so that we can make a total gift of ourselves, because we can only give what we possess. The pagan god of power says, I have power over you. I will force you to do what I want you to do. And I control you. So if you want to be like me, then you must be in control. You must not allow others to be free. You must do this and you must do that. The God of self-gratification is the God who believes in decadence. Please yourself, pamper yourself, look after yourself, just focus on yourself and forget everybody else. The God of passion, is the God who says, oh, look, be passionate about looking out for yourself, and so on and so forth. The pagan God of freedom says freedom is doing whatever you want to do, suit yourself, please yourself. But the true God says freedom is growing in my image and likeness. And therein lies the difference. So the true God actually frees people. The true God actually enables people to possess themselves. True God enables people to recognize their dignity and the preciousness of life and the importance of mutual respect. And above all, the importance of charity, the importance of love. And so the society we live in today that actually demonstrates that the majority of the people in Ireland today they're either agnostic or atheistic. They mightn't say they're atheists, but by virtue of the fact, they prefer to call themselves humanists. And humanism is just a nice word for atheism.
I just want to say to you, we've run out of time. Thank you both for the video today. It was fantastic. We covered a lot, and we'll prepare for our next video. Okay.
Thank you, Oliver. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Father Seán. Thank you, John.
Happy Christmas.
And a happy Christmas.
All concerned.